All right, let's continue with Ben's Revolution. And we are on chapter 3. I think I'll do 3 and 4. These are very short chapters. So I think if I'm going to do 10-minute recordings, then that's about right. So chapter 3, Liberty or Death. For the boys, it was all great fun, but 3,000 miles away in Great Britain, no one was laughing. In May of 1774, 6 months after the Tea Party, so let's try to keep in mind the time frame here. 6 months has gone by since the throwing of the tea over the side of the boats. A ship arrived in Boston Harbor with a new governor for Massachusetts, Thomas Gage, a general in the British Army who was soon followed by hundreds of British soldiers. It was his job, Gage announced, to close the port of Boston until the colonists agreed to pay for the tea they destroyed. No more ships would be allowed to enter or leave Boston. So can you imagine? This is a time when all of the goods that you need are coming in. Not all, but many of the goods that you need are coming in by boat, or the goods that you are selling are going out by boat. So if the harbor is closed, your economy, the way that you live and get money for your goods, is dramatically impacted. And again, I'm going to be making connections to things that are happening today, and we are not in that situation today, but we have some limitations on certain things that come and go. Early on, there was the toilet paper crisis. Everyone was worried, oh no, we're not gonna have enough toilet paper, and everyone's running out to the grocery store to get the toilet paper. There's plenty of toilet paper, but sometimes people get nervous. So I wonder if things like that are happening during this time, this year-long time. And actually, we're not even at the siege yet, because this is May of 1774. This is a full year almost before the Concord and Lexington battle of April of 1775. So this is an ongoing crisis, and it begins, well, Tea Party is often what is the moment that historians say, aha, that was the moment that things really changed. But there's really a lot of series of events that lead up to the Revolutionary War. That's one. And now the closing of the Boston Harbor is another. And you have this Massachusetts governor who's been appointed by King George. And so it's not like he's elected. There's no government election at this point in time. So he is appointed, and so he is not going to be accepted by many of the people living in Boston at that time. So until the colonists agreed to pay for the tea they destroyed, no more ships would be allowed to enter or leave Boston Harbor. If the ships couldn't come and go, the Bostonians would be cut off from doing business and wouldn't be able to feed their families. That's the economic piece. How do you feed a family when you don't have the money, the resources to then buy food or barter for food, trade for food? And Isaiah Thomas, remember he's the printer, was so angry that he added a headline to the front page of his newspaper that read, Americans, liberty or death, join or die. All over Boston, people had to make a decision. Were they to do as Isaiah Thomas said and join the Patriots? Or were they to do as General Gage, the governor of Massachusetts, said, and remain loyal to the king. Again, I see parallels, connections between what was going on in 1775 to things happening today. We have newspapers and we have news channels where there are often headlines or messages that are given to us that are influencing us or trying to influence our decisions around how we feel about what's going on. And here, the join or die, I'm going to bring that up. I'll put that as an attachment in the Google Classroom so you can see this. Join or die was, I think, 3C. We looked at that. I don't know if 3B looked at it yet, but it's the snake that's cut into chunks, and it was actually a message that connected to the 7 Years' War, French and Indian War, about how if you need to be, in order to win, you need to be united. So the idea of the colonies uniting together and coming together to fight this war, that was a message from them. But they revive it. They bring that same message back around this time. And that's what Isaiah Thomas is doing in his newspaper. He's bringing back that join or die. It's a very strong message. And it is a political message. And it's an exaggerated message in a way, but it gets people to think and say, yeah, maybe I need to get involved. Maybe I need to think about this. So that was chapter 3. Chapter 4. I don't know if you recognize those. Those are the redcoat uniforms. So we have the British soldiers coming in. Let's see what this is. This is, it says, "Go home, redcoats." By the summer, the wharves of Boston were quiet. Kind of like the streets around here right now. But the Boston Common was noisier than it had ever been. Not sure if the Boston Common is that noisy right now, but I know people are walking about. Hopefully you're getting out there too. Make sure you check out the ducklings. I know people are continuing to decorate the ducklings with all sorts of fun messages. So get out there and check out the ducklings. Instead of mooing cows, remember the common was where the cows went and the goats and sheep to graze, but there weren't mooing cows there at this time. The common was full of British soldiers who marched up and down the grassy meadow in their red uniforms to the shrill music of the fife and drums. Sometimes fights broke out in the streets between the townspeople and the soldiers. It was a scary time. Ben and his friends would watch the soldiers from the tree-lined edge of the common. "Go home, you redcoats, they shouted. They didn't like that the redcoats were there. But one thing that we have to continue to remember is if you were participating in the military, if that was your job, you did as you were told. And so if you were a member of the military, a soldier, you were sent on a mission. Same thing happens today. You're sent on a mission. You do that because that's what you've agreed to in the job of signing up to be a member of the military. And you hope that whatever your job is, that you're helping people. And many people are doing that today, helping each other out in this time with the coronavirus. Here, in this time, they were being sent over to here, to Boston area, to the Americas, to the colonies, and didn't quite know what they were in for. But it turns out most of the Bostonians were not very welcoming to the British redcoat soldiers. They didn't want them here, especially if they weren't loyalist. If you were a loyalist to the king, you might say, oh, thank goodness they brought these soldiers over to help us and keep us safe and hopefully just get things back to normal the way we want them to be. But if you were a patriot, you'd be angered by having these soldiers taking over the common, because the common was now a place where a lot of the redcoat soldiers were doing their militia training, and eventually it becomes an encampment. It's literally where they are living in tents on the Boston Common. So one day in August, Ben learned that a man from Connecticut was approaching the town gate with a gift for the citizens of Boston. His name was Israel Putnam. He had a wide and friendly face and a big stomach, and crowded into his wagon were 130 sheep to help feed the town. Israel Putnam made his way to the Boston Common, where he struck up a conversation with the British soldiers. 15 years before, he had fought alongside these same men during the French and Indian War, and he considered many to be his friends. But he had a warning now. The next time I come to Boston, he said, I will be your enemy. So I think what he's saying is, yes, we fought on the same side during that other war 15 years earlier, the French and Indian War, or known as the 7 Years' War. But now we have a different situation here. And you are now, unfortunately, you're my enemy. And so I'm having a conversation with you now, but that may not be able to be the case if I come back in a month, a few months, a year. And that's a sad situation too, to think about when it comes to what a war is and how it can be ever changing. Who is your friend? Who is your enemy? Who is your ally? And it can be very complicated. So we will continue. I will record this and then I will do the next 2 chapters. All right, enjoy.